All right. So first, I would love to have you introduce yourself.
Christina, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about the fact that the Michigan Council of Teachers of English has decided to launch a program, not just for a single year, but you've got a 3-year plan. It's a program that I became involved with in 2006 with the National Council of Teachers of English. And we were doing a review of whether or not that national organization was uh, recognizing the diversity of the profession. And we were seeing no one moving up on a regular basis in leadership and said, we've got to do something. And so they decided to adopt and adapt a program similar to the Cultivating New Voices, but designed for classroom teachers. And so in 2008, we launched the first program where we invited teachers from across the nation who were interested in moving up in leadership and were willing to be mentored by men and women of the groups that were currently underrepresented. And they were mentored for a year to implement a program at their own school site, on their college campus, or in their community. And it worked. And so over years, the program has expanded some, but most importantly, it's achieving the goal in that people who have gone through the program have continued in positions of leadership at their school, in their community, and some at the national level. And so when I moved to Michigan and went to the conference, I did not see the evidence of much diversity here. And I spoke to some of the people that I knew were on the boards, and I said, well, what can we do here? And over time, they said, you keep coming to conferences. But by that time, we call it DHEJ, they called it at that time, Diversity, Justice, Inclusion, and Equity subcommittee was formed, and I was invited to be a part of that. And it was the first time that I realized that Michigan is much more diverse than I thought, but it's not necessarily evident visually. And so the 3 years that I worked with this group, I learned a lot about the state of Michigan that I did not know. But I realized that there were people here who wanted to have a program that supported the diversity represented in the classroom. And so I said, what about the Early Career Educators of Color program? And they asked me to explain what it was. When I did, they said, that just may work, but you've got to present it to the executive board of directors. And I did. And the board had lots of questions. We don't know if we could do that yet. Besides, that's going to cost money. And so I said, well, let's do what we can. And over the last 3 or 4 years, I have noticed more evidence of an active movement to not only attract, but utilize the experience and talents of a wider range of educators in the state. And then last year, at the National Council of Teachers of English, it was the 15th anniversary of the Early Career Educators of Color program with MCTE. And I was all excited about it. And one of my friends asked, do you have that program in Michigan? I said, no, we don't. She said, would you have it if you had the money? So, very likely we could. And this particular person said that if MCTE consented to do the program and model it after the National Council program, this friend would give the MCTE $20,000 to get started. And that's where we are today. 2 weeks ago, Christina mentioned that they were going to have a board meeting. And then 3 or 4 days ago, she sent me an email saying that 100% unanimous approval to support the launch of an early career educators of color for the Michigan Council of Teachers of English. Whew. So, next question.
What a journey. So my next question is, why do you believe growing the Early Career Educators of Color program in Michigan matters?
I think it matters not just because it's Michigan, but because it's the right thing to do. Over the past few years, we have seen across the nation and across the state temptations to separate ethnic groups, cultural groups, language groups, racial groups, religious groups, and that's not who we are. We are a state, we are educators, we are required to educate young people up to the age of 16. And if we're going to do this in a way that represents what we say we want, a unified group of people who respects one another, one of the things is to show that in the leadership. And one of the best ways to become an effective leader is to have an effective mentor. And having the mentoring program similar to the one that I've learned that MCT is beginning will be critical to developing a program where all students are respected and all teachers understand ways to teach the variety of students without asking them to give up who they are.
Mm. So my last question for you, Anna, building on that, is what are your hopes for this program moving forward here in Michigan?
The main hope is that will expand, that as the organization develops experience in what works in Michigan, that program will attract the funding required. There is nothing good that doesn't cost something. And thankfully, this friend is willing to support the start of the program. But in order for the program to continue, there are going to be reasons for figuring out ways to keep it funded. And the national program has begun to receive support from some of the textbook publishing companies. In fact, about 3 years ago, there was one publishing company who matched the annual budget. And so instead of having 6 member cohorts, that year there were 12. And that's the dream that I have for Michigan, that we will not only continue the program, we will expand the program and equally make it fit Michigan. Whatever we see we need here to make education not just a privilege, but something that everyone enjoys, because learning becomes a joy when people feel that they can be themselves, they can be heard, they can be respected, and they will be supported.
Mm. Thank you so much for that, Anna. On behalf of the Michigan Council of Teachers of English, I'm really grateful for your continued advocacy and leadership in moving this work forward and in supporting our growing early career educators of color here in the state, in the work that they're doing in classrooms and in the work that they will do as future leaders here in the state. So thank you. I'm
One
excited.
thing I'd like to add,
Yeah, please.
that a member of this planning team is a former member of the cohort from the MCTE Early Career Educators of Color. The 2016 cohort is now on the planning team for this program. May I mention this person's name? Patrick Harris was on the 2016 cohort and said back then that he was interested in leadership. And here in Michigan, he is having an opportunity to utilize some of the skills that were mentored in him. He had it in his heart,
Mm.
but he's having an opportunity to do it. And if you're looking for evidence of the success of the program, look who Christina has pulled on board to help launch the program. Several of them are past members of the National Council of Teachers of English, Early Career Educators of Color. And my 15 years as a mentor, I can sit back and just smile and say,
That's right. That's right. And so we also then have to share our gratitude for the mentorship that Patrick has experienced as a part of that program and the leadership he's now providing here in the state. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Anna. And thank you for the work that you do. We appreciate you.